No.
Yeah, it's a link.
Well, I would click on it, make sure the
Yeah, I'm doing it right now.
Okay, well, our live stream is officially on. I would like to again welcome all of our Patreons. This is an exclusive thing for all of you as an appreciation for joining us every week and for also supporting our endeavor here on the show. Finally, we can say that Trish is back after being absent last week, but I'm happy that she's back. And of course, sitting on the other side of me is Chris, and I would like to kindly remind Chris not to eat his nails.
I've already been chewing them. I have to try to stop when people are looking at me.
Well, at least now you know that they are looking, and hopefully we have some good sound over there. I'm going to turn up my headset. We are scheduled to start in about 3 minutes. We'll then hit record and do all that good stuff. But it's been an interesting week. We've got a lot of stories that we're going to cover. Well, I wouldn't say a lot, but we do have stories, some happy memories that we're going to be talking about on today's episode of our childhood and things like that. And I think that we're overall going to have a good show. Just to give everyone a heads up, next week we are back with Dr. Evan Goldstein with the next segment of From Top to Bottom. And of course, as you know, if you've been listening to the show, he usually pre-records a very amazing segment of helpful tips on things that, you know, people do, whether you're top or bottom, or just in the perspective of overall men's health. I think that he does a very good job at really bringing home certain things that we need to remain vigilant for and be aware of when it comes to being an active gay male in our community when it comes to sexuality. Right, boys?
You just keep talking. I'm trying to read.
I know. He's trying to get caught up on one of his stories that he put in our notes and all that good stuff. So we've got about 2 minutes, and I will let you guys enjoy the view, even though there's a couple of missing tiles up here, over here, and over there. I've been very lazy. I haven't had an opportunity to finish the project with the drop ceiling, and of course, I need to put in the rest of the lighting enclosures and all that stuff. But the studio's coming along. At some point, we'll be painting, so that'll be fun. And being that we're in the studio and you can actually see it, one of our listeners and of course a fan, Mama Kim, we talked about this before, had made us some flags, and previously you wouldn't be able to see it, but now you can. So I'm going to walk away for a little bit, and well, actually no, I can just point to it. Right here against the wall is this amazing little rainbow flag. It's almost like a little quilt that was made by Mama Kim, and she inscribed our names in the back with a nice little loving message for each one of us. Trish got one, Chris got one, I got one, so mine's hanging on the wall. And so we're super appreciative of that little gift. It's wonderful. Trish absolutely loves it because he loves everything rainbows and unicorns. And I think maybe I should take the opportunity to also answer on air. Mama Kim had sent over a question and said, you know, I noticed that you're missing some tiles up here. And by chance, is that where the rainbow tile that Trish keeps talking about is going to go?
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? If she... What's that? And I said, you know, if she can paint it, absolutely, we'll put a rainbow tile right over her chair.
Bitch, I work at a theater. I will commission somebody.
She will get it done. And so I will definitely agree to put a nice little rainbow tile right over her head. It'll be like a rainbow halo for her because, you know, that's all she lives for. And
unicorns.
Cool. God only knows. I'll be the first angel in heaven with a rainbow halo.
Probably. All right, so
welcome to the club. Elton John's right there.
Oh, Elton John. Who else? Well, no.
Actually, he'll probably outlive me.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. You might run into Cher. Not that I'm wishing her any death or anything. I love Cher to death. She's one of the goddesses.
Elton John is having his farewell tour right now.
He is.
He's had you know what? 3 of them.
But you know what? So did Barbara Jones Barbara Jones.
I was like, oh, girl, she ain't going nowhere.
Barbara Streisand had her farewell tour like twice or 3 times.
I was like, Barbara Streisand's going to outlive the cockroaches.
All right, so I'm going to hit record because it is 6:30 and it's time to start the show. Of course. All right, you boys ready? In 3, 2.
Happy Bi Visibility Day.
Trish, that was yesterday. She goes away for 1 week.
Welcome to GayTalk 2.0, the ultimate podcast for your dose of dish. All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of GayTalk 2.0, the ultimate podcast. We're streaming live on Digital Stream Radio, or at least I think we are. Welcome to the show. We do stream live every Monday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you can access the live stream by visiting digitalstreamradio.com, or if you're one of our Patreons, you can actually watch our live video stream coming to you all the way from our Patreon website. You can go on Patreon and subscribe and also support to have access to that live stream. My name is Tom, and I'm your host. And as always, I'm in this room with my two best friends, starting with the first one.
Hey, y'all, Nick or Trish.
And
Good to be with you guys. It's Chris.
and welcome you all to
The Dish.
So I have to say that last week we tried to get a unison version of The Dish, and it almost worked. We had Heather Lee on the show with us, and it was cool. She was very gracious and great and fantastic, and thank you for joining us. And now,
Yeah, thanks for covering my ass.
yeah, she did. So Trish had
We
a
keep
little
her on retainer.
Exactly. So Trish had a little issue last week, and she had to leave, and she couldn't stay, and so we were like, oh my God, I have to call someone. We need a third person in here, because just Chris and I'll murder him by the end of the episode.
But you know what's great? It's so much cheaper because when Paul Anthony was on the show, we had to keep a lawyer on retainer.
Trish, we just got to keep Heather.
That is so true. Oh my God.
Oh, somebody's on point tonight.
Mhm, he sure is. No, but overall,
Why the hell is there a monster clip? Whoa!
Sorry, it scared me. So sorry to all you listening.
I go away for a week and there's clips all over my mic. I don't know what's going on in the studio. I can't keep dates together.
Oh,
She's
sorry.
a
Apparently,
hot
I
mess.
have a boyfriend, so it's
Oh, so you want to talk about that? So
Yeah.
Chris has a boyfriend.
I don't understand how this even started.
Well, I don't know. Somebody just said something, and they said, I think Chris is dating someone. I'm like, so I wanted to wait until well, actually, we didn't wait. We asked you before, but I'll ask you again. Are you dating anyone?
Yeah, 5 different textbooks.
I'm well, most importantly, because it's never been announced on the show, Chris is single.
I thought we talked about
Great. All the emails are going to be for him again.
So I don't know. So I just heard a rumor, and I just had to ask, but now he debunked it. So he is not dating anyone.
No?
He's single.
It's going to stay that way for a while.
I think it should.
I'm proud of you.
Super busy.
Yeah, concentrate on your studies and get all that stuff done, and then worry about life.
That's all right. I ain't got no time for D right now.
Mm.
Only A's.
I need to find some time for D because she has been stressed as fuck. She needs to get it done.
Do you want to talk about that?
What do you want to talk about?
Well, you said you're stressed as fuck. So what is going on? What's stressing you?
So last week I left the show because 1, I was sick, but 2, I was having a slight mental breakdown.
Uh-huh.
I've got a lot going on in my life right now. I have a new job, and for the past 2.5 months, I've been working both jobs. And then we also have the podcast, and I also bartend part-time, and I've been trying to start a new podcast, which has kind of been put on hold. But all of it kind of just came to a head on Monday because of a fucking furniture company. And she just kind of went down for the count. She just went down for the count. She was crying a lot. She needed to go to bed. And she just shut the lights and crawled into her bed and cried herself to sleep. She woke up the next day and she was ready to go.
Good. I'm proud of you.
Everybody hits a breaking point.
And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. And the power in acknowledging the fact that you go through that is really part of that healing process, right? Being able to, come out of that on the other end better, or at least try to, than you were when you went in.
Well, it's funny because honestly, I've never hit that point before in my life. Like I've never hit a breaking point. I've always been the person that goes, does, achieves, and is, I always get things done. And I've never necessarily failed at anything I've tried to do. I just keep trying until it's done right. And this past week, it was just like, all of a sudden I was like, I have too much on my plate. And it was like the first time in my life where it's like, I just can't. And I walked away and I felt really shitty. I felt like a failure. I felt like weak. And it took me a long time to realize that I wasn't weak. I'm super, super strong. But there is a point for everybody at which you just need to take time for yourself.
Hey, listen, if you apply enough heat to steel, steel bends and breaks. You know, the fact...
Are you calling me a man of steel? Or a lady of steel? I don't know.
Lady. Definitely lady. No, I mean, just think about it. You know, it's sad to think of it this way and to use this as an analogy, but no one ever thought that the Twin Towers would ever come down, right? These are steel structures that were made super strong. They were made to withstand extreme pressures, etc. But you know, those towers came down, and it just goes to show you that everything has a breaking point at some point in its resistance, life, etc. And
it's a very interesting analogy.
All you can do is, out of whatever falls, you build again. And now we have, you know, the Freedom Tower sitting in its place. Obviously, we lost many people, and I don't mean to use that as a means to equate to what you went through, but just to let people know that, you know, the unthinkable usually happens. We never think that it would happen to us, right? But it does happen. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you acknowledge that it did and you took time to rectify the situation and to take time for yourself, that's important.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's funny too, because I was talking to my dad, crying at my dad that night. And
at his dad, I love that.
Yeah.
And he was talking to me. He's like, you know what? And I was like, have you ever experienced anything like this? Like, I feel like I'm really going through it right now. Like, I've never felt this way before. And he's like, yeah, but normally I just yell at people. You are not yelling at people, you're crying. And I'm like, oh, that's because I'm a gay man. That makes sense. Okay. so I'm going through my breaking point in a different way than he did. But it was good to hear that, like, the man that I kind of hold above everything, that I've always looked to as like that guy that's just always been able to do everything, also has those moments. And he may punch a wall and I may cry in my bed, but we all have our moments.
Of course. And, you know, and we're allowed.
I was born, he probably wanted to punch a fucking wall. He's like, oh, fuck. She's going to be a mo.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well. Give some of the pictures that you've shown or posted either on your Facebook or somewhere. Yeah, we knew.
So did
those outfits. Oh, my God. But anyway, so Christopher, how are you?
I'm good.
You good?
Yeah, I'm awesome.
How's school?
School's good.
School, yeah.
Yeah, staying busy. Then I was able to hang out with Liz this weekend, which was a lot of fun.
You went to the Big E. What did you get at the Big E?
I promise I will bring. I was going to bring it today, but I forgot to. I will bring it next week to show all of our Patreon viewers. Once we got there, I said, I want to leave with a handmade flute today. So we finally, we were going around. We had a couple of beers. We were eating, eating some food, of course. And we were eating. I didn't eat too much, actually. Like, I did not feel sick at all today. So we finally find
the bathroom's still there.
Oh, I know. I left the door open just in case.
Yeah,
I'm prepared. Yeah. So we found the village, and I found this woman who was selling handmade flutes, and her and I hit it off. We were chatting for a while. I was playing a bunch of them, and then I asked about the walking stick flutes, and she's like, all right, I really want you to try this one. I've been working on this one for a long time. And she hands it to me, and I was like, there's a unicorn on that one.
Sold.
Yep. So I played it for a while, and I got a unicorn walking stick / flute. Mm-hmm. I thought of you the whole time, Trish.
It was heaven.
Well,
I'm going to name it Trish.
Chris is my partner now, so.
Do we want to talk about that?
Kind of, because was it the same pharmacy? We're both like, we're not a couple.
Yeah, it was the same pharmacy. No, it wasn't.
It was the other Walgreens.
Yeah, it was.
But today I was there to pick up stuff for my partner. Yes.
Yeah. I had prescriptions I had to pick up, and I just couldn't pick them up today. And Chris was on his way, and he was passing the Walgreens that I go to, and some of the prescriptions that I was picking up are a controlled substance,
birth control.
Yeah. And so I had to call, and I was like. Hi, yes, I'm going on vacation tomorrow with my partner, and is it possible for my partner just to come in and pick up my prescriptions? And she was like, oh, yes, of course. He just needs to know la, 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 la. I was like, okay. So I call Chris back. I was like, you're my partner. We're going on vacation. This is the info you need to know.
I almost made myself crack up once I got there because it came out so easily. Like I didn't even have to think of it. I'm like, yeah, I'm here to pick up meds for my partner. It just came out and I almost or just like innately like, I'm here to pick up meds for my partner. We're not a couple. Like the other side, like that you'd be like, I think you need meds.
Oh, honey, you're gonna need something.
Scrape a little off the top, you know.
So what was interesting though is the conversation that ensued after via text. So why don't you tell him what he sent you?
Oh yeah, hold on. Let me pull it up. 1 second.
This cracks me up.
Okay, so I sent him the information that I need, and I said thank you, and he said anytime. She's finishing it up right now, a couple of minutes. I was like, okay, and then he responds with partner, LOL, and I was like, I'll give you a blowjob later, honey. He's like, thanks, got it.
And it's been a while. I might cash it in.
Oh,
she is going on vacation. So.
Love is in the air. Oh, she is going on vacation. She's going to Nantucket.
She is. She's going away for like 4 or 5 days next week.
Yeah, she's cheating on me.
Yeah, already.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you.
Hey, look.
Didn't even get that blowjob yet.
It's not my fault. I mean, like somebody gives you a house to stay in for free and you need some space to just like decompress. You're going to take them up on the offer.
Would. I would. I mean, I'll be right there.
You could always have a nice weekend at my house. I don't have a couch, but
there's always the floor, rug burns, legs up. It works.
No, there's something about Nantucket. It's like you go there and you just enter this bubble of like
money.
Well, yes, but it's also like you just kind of lose track of life, and it's really, really nice.
Well,
like,
it's a very, very tight knit beach community, and so that atmosphere sort of kind of resonates through everyone that's there, even if you're a resident or a visitor. Yeah, you sort of kind of fall in right quick.
So last time I was there, funny fucking story. So last time I was there, the first time I was there, we ended up staying an extra day because my friend got a little drunk and we couldn't make the ferry in time. But on the way back to the house to get our stuff together to try to make the ferry, we got picked up by this Uber driver, and Nantucket's really small. So this Uber driver, we had cocktails from the beach bar, and I was like, can we bring the cocktails in the car? And she was like, no, you can't. So then we of course chugged our cocktails, hence not making.
They weren't going to throw them out.
And then we didn't make the ferry. But that being said, we just recently went back, and when we were there, we called an Uber driver to pick us up because we were going to meet some friends downtown. And it was the same woman. She was like, oh, hi, guys.
No cocktails.
Did you make that ferry? And we were like, no, we didn't make that ferry.
We didn't make it because you didn't let us come into the car without cocktails.
Exactly.
We did actually blame her a little bit. And she was like, why is this my fault?
Well,
it's irresponsible.
Why can't you take cocktails with you inside the car? You're not driving.
It was her car. It's her choice.
Yeah, but it's an Uber, and you can. What if you had a coffee or something?
Well, a coffee is different than an alcoholic beverage.
You could have just said, "I have coffee."
Yeah,
and you're like hurricane glass with
in
a
a solo
like
cup.
Umbrella coming out of it and salt on the rim.
Yeah.
In a solo cup.
Yeah, there was no hiding what I was drinking.
It's iced coffee. Yeah. Okay.
Point taken.
It's iced tea. I probably could have gone away with iced tea.
Yeah, I told you. So speaking of cocktails, Christopher, what are we going
we have to do that.
Be? Yeah, we do have a show to record, guys.
Indeed.
What are we going to be talking about as far as a cocktail for today?
It's another sangria. This was from the choice of Trish. It's a sparkling pomegranate cranberry sangria. Perfect for pretty much all glam fall and winter weddings. This sangria adds an extra sparkle by swapping good old wine for some rosé all day. Of course, we know.
Yes!
Yes. With a warm and earthy hint of rosemary, the stunning sip is inspired by seasonal flavors. It's one of those batch-made cocktails, so you make it. I believe it serves 8 people. And it consists of 2 bottles.
When it's us, it serves 3.
Yeah, one pitcher each.
One.
Yeah, right. So it consists of 2 bottles of Prosecco. That's a great start. Then 1 375 milliliter bottle of Grand Marnier. That's where I'm on board because it's now getting strong. 2 cans of pomegranate orange San Pellegrino water. 1 bottle of ginger beer. 2 cans of soda water. a quarter cup of cold pressed 100% cranberry juice. That
He lost
sounds
about 20 minutes ago.
absolutely delicious.
It does sound good.
You mix those all together, it's going to be very bubbly. You're going to be burping a lot. And then your fruit garnish, 1 pomegranate, 2 Christmas oranges, 1 bag of fresh cranberries, because, you know, cranberries are so easy to find, and then fresh rosemary.
What the hell is a Christmas orange?
I don't know.
Because I don't know. I've never heard
we
of it.
skipped that part because I could not find a Christmas orange.
I don't know what a Christmas orange is. Can we Google that?
We can when we're not on the air, perhaps.
Well, I've always known about, you know, oranges and mandarins and things like that, or grapefruit, anything citrusy. But a Christmas orange, is it special? Does it have ornaments on it? Is it red? I don't know. What is it?
I don't know. You hang it from a tree. I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah.
So I think it's important to note, though, why is this healthy for you, Chris? Because I could tell you if you can't tell me.
Well, rosemary is good for the thyroid.
Yeah.
So
There's that.
gotta protect that thyroid.
Mhm.
Pomegranates are
A superfood.
indeed they are a superfood.
Omega-3s.
Cranberries are grown in water, so that's very hydrating for you.
And they're good for the urinary tract.
That too. And oranges, well, we don't know what a Christmas orange is, but oranges are good for your skin.
I think a Christmas
full of
orange is
vitamin C.
an orange that you eat at Christmas.
I would imagine so.
And it's, you know, rich on vitamin C, which is good.
Absolutely.
Good to
And
keep
there's
all the colds away.
And there's a ton of Prosecco in it, so it'll definitely clean me out.
That
So,
makes
you know,
anyone
it's
happy.
Fine. It's great.
Prosecco
Ginger
is,
beer is good for the tummy.
Yeah, and Prosecco is like make you feel happy without having to take drugs kind of thing.
And Grand Marnier will get you drunk.
Yeah,
Of
exactly.
course. So there you go.
But really though, pomegranates are high in
This is
antioxidants and
true.
anti-inflammatory properties. They help. They supposedly help with things like a heart condition, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, heart attacks, and congestive heart failure, as well as they help with fatty deposits in your body.
I need to start drinking a lot of pomegranate juice, evidently.
You got to mix it with pineapple juice. We know you like pineapple juice.
Yes. So speaking of that, we were at the bar last night, and
Oh boy.
so I was getting ready to start my night. You know, you guys know that I run karaoke every Sunday night at Partners Cafe. And so I went over to Nick and I said, Nick, can I have a bottle of water? And also, can I have a can of pineapple juice with a glass of ice? And his immediate response was like, who are you bringing home tonight?
That was my response.
I was like, what? I was like, I need a little sugar in my body right now. And then he proceeds to jump into, are you pre-diabetic? And I'm like, no. He goes like, so then you're not bringing anybody home. You're not pre-diabetic. Why are you drinking pineapple juice? And I know why, because I've always said that, you know, pineapple juice makes semen taste good. And so therefore, you know, those that like to swallow should drink a lot of pineapple juice. Well, have their partners drink a lot of pineapple juice.
So we do need to get into the show, but since we're talking about pineapple juice, I do want to tell a story that happened this weekend. So we had our good friend Jose on the show, Big Jose.
That's right.
A little bit ago, a while ago.
It was last year during the Christmas time.
And he was working the door this weekend, and somehow the concept of cum rags came up.
Oh, Lord.
And he was talking about how he literally has a stash of cum rags, and he has like a clean drawer and a dirty drawer. I'm like, why don't you just put it in the hamper and wash it? But that's another story for another time. And he's like, but like, have you ever smelt your cum rags? I was like, no, that's disgusting. Like, why would you do that? He's like, mine smell like pineapple. I was like, what?
Good for him. I feel like most smell like a creek. So that's
no,
nice.
most people say that semen smells like bleach.
I've heard that. I think it smells like.
Have you ever like smelt those trees?
Yeah,
like,
that's why I say
cum
creek.
trees.
Yeah,
the cum trees. Yeah,
I remember in I think my junior year in high school, we were practicing outside before playing at the Big E, and we're finishing it off. And right when our band teacher, they have a bunch of those trees, and the wind is gusting. And right when he cuts the band off, one of the drummer goes, "Smells like sex," because it was just one of those fucking trees. It really just fills the frickin' place up. Yeah. All
My
right.
mouth started
Cum
salivating
rags.
all of a sudden.
Cum rags. I mean, you don't even need to
All right.
wash those things. By the time they're done, you just throw them up against the wall. They'll shatter. They're fine.
I literally broke it in half.
That's disgusting.
I needed a second half.
Ew.
Crazy.
Oh my God, bridesmaids. There is literally semen everywhere. I picked up a towel the other day and I literally broke it in half. I mean, I broke it in half.
I probably got pregnant too. Oh, Lord have mercy. All right, well, listen, let's jump into some stories because we do have some stuff that we wanted to talk about on the show. We're 20 minutes in. Awesome. Time's flying. Time flies when you're on Prozac.
I'll let you know.
No pun. So I wanted to talk about, all right, cartoons, Tom and Jerry. When I say those two amazing names, Christopher, what comes to mind?
A little mouse leading to the violent murder of a cat every episode.
Trish?
Yeah, same. I just think of a cat and a mouse, and the mouse is always like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, the reason why I bring that up is because this month, Tom and Jerry actually turns 78. The cartoons, someone posted on Facebook a picture of the cartoons and they're aged, right? And they're all like older, but they're still at their old antics. You know, the mouse is just really giving the cat a run for his money. But yeah, 78 years ago, in 1940, Tom and Jerry was released to the public, created by the greats William Hanna and Joseph Barbera.
Love Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah, and I think that there's so many cartoons that they did. What were the other ones?
Scooby-Doo!
Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you?
Well, nailed it.
But anyway, so I
did they do the Jetsons and Johnny Quest and
Oh my God, the Foodaracocycle.
that one? Wacky Races.
No, from the Jetsons, the Foodaracocycle.
Was that Rosie washing dishes or something? I don't know.
She just like makes food in the Foodaracocycle. It's just
There
like,
you go.
I want a chicken. Foodaracocycle.
Boom. Nailed it.
I need to get me one of those. That would be
you
amazing.
pretty much your fridge pretty much does that.
Almost there. Yeah, I know. I got a new fridge. It's amazing. So no, when I think about Tom and Jerry and I think about cartoons and it brings me back to my childhood. And I remember.
And how long ago was that, Tom?
It was a very long
there you
time
go. I was
ago.
waiting for it.
A very long time ago. But anyway, I think about my childhood.
Tell us about the first episode.
The first episode. Well,
remember the 40s, Tommy?
Picture it. Sicily, 1912.
My black and white TV. We had two channels.
That's right.
On and off.
And my rabbit ear
Dad jokes, I like
antennas, because
that.
cable didn't exist at that time. But I do remember a time. I have my rabbit antennas now. It's like I'll get into that in a minute, but I wanted to talk about Tom and Jerry. It's like one of my favorite cartoons aside from DuckTales. And
Nice.
Yeah. And what was the other one that I liked? I liked He-Man, DuckTales, Scooby-Doo.
I still watch Scooby.
Tom and Jerry.
Tom and Jerry, don't forget it. I'm telling you,
Silver
Wacky
Hawks,
Races.
Thundercats.
Oh,
Yeah.
Nailed it.
These are all cartoons that I absolutely loved as a young child, but Tom and Jerry had a special place in my heart because no matter where I was, if that cartoon was on, I was glued to the TV. And it just brings back so many happy memories of me being a child and watching cartoons and being able to just sort of kind of lose myself from my surroundings, right? And but one of the best things about the whole thing was that it was always I always identified myself with the mouse, like you want to, and you wanted to sort of kind of feel bad for Tom because I'm a Tom, but Jerry was the shit. Like he really was. And I really, really loved watching him just really outsmart this cat. Because, cats are supposed to have 9 lives and they're supposed to be very smart and very agile and blah, blah, blah. But poor Tom, man, he got it hard.
He had like 694 lives.
Like pretty much.
And you remind me more of Jerry's Mexican cousin.
I will cut her. Nobody was talking about Mighty Mouse. Nobody was talking about Speedy Gonzalez.
No, not him. He had like another. No, he actually had a cousin in the show.
He
Not
did?
talking about him. Yeah. He also had like the one with the mustache. We're like, when he played the guitar.
What the hell are we talking about today?
Tom and Jerry. It's a very light and happy episode. I mean, there's some stuff that we're going to talk about later, but overall, I think it's good.
Cool. Well, that was a fun fact.
I love cartoons, and you know what? To the children growing up nowadays, I think it is important if you have access to some of the cartoons that came out in the 80s, 70s, 80s, let your kids watch them. I think that they're so good. Everyone's hung up on Disney right now. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but some of these like local cartoons that were, you know, created by these networks before Disney was literally like swallowing everything up were absolutely amazing cartoons.
Meanwhile, all the parents are like, if my kid is sitting down, not talking to me, quiet, watching TV, I don't give a shit what it is.
Hell yeah.
That's true.
They can watch Static.
Or just hand them an iPad or
Saturday morning cartoons, man.
They were the best.
Download Boomerang. It's like $4.99 a month.
So when
I watch that shit all the time.
When I was a kid, we had this playroom, and it was attached to the dining room, but it had a sliding glass door. So like our parents used to put us in the playroom and turn on the TV and like shut the sliding glass door so they didn't have to hear us talk. And there are videos of us as a kid just like flush on the wall with like our mouths like open, like trying to like lick the wall or like the glass wall. And my parents were just like,
sorry,
this is so great.
Yeah.
That explains a lot.
They used to lock us up.
That explains a lot.
She had 5 kids. I do not blame her.
I don't blame anybody that's had anything more than one. Like seriously. No, but if you have access to these cartoons, definitely do it. I think it's well worth it. I certainly feel like it's been an amazing thing. All right. So that being said, enough of Tom and Jerry and the cartoons, but I felt nostalgic when I saw that, and I thought I'd mention and share that with you all. So do any of you guys want to talk about anything?
I mean, I can talk about something really quick before we go on break.
Go for it.
Do it.
So I think I talked about this before, but so there was this ad that recently popped up in my Facebook, and it was from last year. And I think I brought this up, but it's such a powerful video. I'm going to put it on the post today. But basically what it is you see gay couples walking through the streets holding hands. And then as they encounter other people, you see them let go. Or like out of nervousness, they'll like a door opens and their hands separate. And basically what they're trying to portray is how gay people feel when they're holding hands in public or walking down the street, right?
In love.
In love. Whereas you see heterosexual couples holding hands, walking down the street, nothing. But like when you are a gay, male, female, bi, transgender, holding hands, walking down the street, people may not say anything to you, but you get looks, you get stares. It's just uncomfortable. So it's almost like we're trying to create.
It's also internalized too. Like you feel
right,
like you can't do that. Or
well, you see, like literally, if I were to see a heterosexual couple walking down the street holding hands, I might glance at them, but I wouldn't right away turn away. But you walk down the street holding somebody's hands, and somebody takes notice of it. It's like this knee-jerk reaction for a lot of people to look away. And it makes you feel awkward or uncomfortable. And in reality, you're just holding the hand of the person that you love. And how long is it going to take us to get to a place in which we can walk down the street holding the person that we love's hand and not have to think about what other people are thinking about our relationship? Do you know what I'm saying, though? Because it happens so frequently. I mean, even as a gay man, when I see other gay people holding hands, I clock it, and usually I'll be like, yes, or something like that, because they are making a statement by holding hands and walking down the street. It's strength that we still have to do that.
Well, I mean, to answer your question, how long is it going to be? Well, we would probably have to get rid of the entire Republican Party.
I mean, like, you're going to take it down that road, but yes.
I mean, when you think about, the evangelical people and Republicans in general, not that I want to politicize your video, but that mentality is very prevalent in that party and the people that support that party.
Yeah, but that's not what even what I'm talking about. It's not about the party.
I know.
But I understand the concept where you're going with. It's like this innate thing that has been taught through generations.
You would have to get rid of at least the half of the human population before we would ever be able to walk down the street and feel comfortable enough to not let go when someone looks at us, when someone sees us, when we see other people.
No,
it's going to be a very, very long road ahead before we would ever feel that comfortable.
What I think actually needs to happen is I think that, and this is on me as well as on both of you, I think that we need to, fight fire with fire. And literally, if you're uncomfortable and you're walking down the street and you notice people are clocking it, hold his or her hand tighter.
And in theory, that's amazing and it's great. And I would definitely, if you have the willpower to do that, do it. I encourage you to do it. But, you know, for example, there are other people too that like, I'm not a person that likes to display public displays of affection.
And that's fine.
I've never been that person, but I would damn well hold my partner's hand if it meant making a statement just to do that.
And look at the Danish parliament. I believe it was last year when they were walking out of parliament and the lawmakers were holding hands
in support.
Yeah. Men were walking, holding hands, and then business executives and just, you know, your regular people walking down the street in solidarity with the LGBT community, showing love is love. Same sex is just walking down the streets holding hands.
And this is why places that have a very large population of gay people, for example, the Village, the West Village in New York City, the Castro in San Francisco, when you think about places like Provincetown, or you think about what's the other one in Maine?
Bar Harbor?
No.
Algonquin.
Thank you.
And you think of all like Fire Island. This is why gay people love to go to these places, because when you're there,
it's your Mecca.
You don't have to think about it. You know, you see someone, you give them a big hug and a kiss, and hey, girl, how are you? And you keep sashaying away. And if you're there with someone that you love, you hold their hand and you walk up and down, and it's actually straight people. And I've witnessed this, that have to be on their best behavior because you're on our territory. And it is beautiful to see, to be able to walk carefree with the person that you love. And this is not just in downtown. This is all over Provincetown, like especially in Provincetown. You're going hiking or riding bikes and you want to stop and have a little moment.
Don't go off the trail.
Don't go off the trail. Yeah, there's a lot of poison ivy. You want to kiss your lover and you sort of kind of just want to have a moment.
You don't look around. You just do it.
You just do it. And that feeling is what I would love to see for the entire spectrum of our country.
And you're so right. I think that's why those places are so special to us, because it's one place where, even though, yes, it's more accepted here in the Northeast and in Connecticut and in New York, when you go there,
it's special.
You don't think about holding your partner's hand. You don't think about kissing your partner. You don't think about playing footsie under the table at dinner. Like, you just are finally yourselves together.
The entire town caters to how you feel as a human. Right? When you go to City Hall, when you go to Town Hall, when you go to shows, when you go to restaurants, you know, you are treated like a dignified human being. They sit you down. They don't care if you're holding hands. They don't care if the table is all men or all women or all transgender brothers and sisters. When you go there, you feel special. You know, and that's why.
Is it special or just like comfortable and accepted?
My point, it's special because that really doesn't exist anywhere else.
You're right. I guess you're right. Yeah, it is a different feeling. It's
like New Haven, for example. It's a very eclectic city, right? You have a lot of restaurants. You've got a lot of people. People come from all over the world because of Yale University, and etc. But I still would feel uncomfortable walking into a restaurant or sitting next to my lover and having a PDA like a normal straight couple would in New Haven.
Yeah.
It's never been the case when I was in P-Town. I was in a relationship for 7 years, and most of my best fond memories of my interactions with my ex were in Provincetown, and being able to freely hug him. And although I'm not a person that does PDA often, when I do it wholeheartedly. I go in, you know, you are my significant other. If I want to kiss you and hold you and hug you, I should be able to do that without feeling bad. And that's what P-Town gave us.
Yeah, and I think the moral here is that, like, I'm not promoting PDA. If that's something you're uncomfortable with, that's to each their own. I mean, there are heterosexual couples that are uncomfortable with PDA. But if that's something that you want to walk down the street and you want to hold your partner's hand, do it. And like I said earlier, if you feel like somebody's looking at you or it's uncomfortable, hold their hand tighter, because they're your counterpart. They're your support. And that is how it's going to change, just by, like I say, it's the conversations that you have with individuals. It's also the moments that you share with individuals. And that's going to be a moment you're sharing with somebody that you may or may not know.
And I also want to caution, you know, if you feel in any way, shape, or form that you're unsafe by doing so, by all means, don't do
Call
it.
Trish. She always has a shank.
She'll come down and beat someone down. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's a great you know, thing to mention, because it does happen and it happens often. But I wanted to close with this to parents. If you have an opportunity, to visit some of these places that do cater to our LGBTQ lifestyle and who we are as a people. I encourage that you seek and visit these places, because it is remarkable to see the amount of support that exists in some of these very unique communities. For example, in P-Town, they have Family Week. Parents, whether you're straight, gay, bisexual, transgender, if you have children, bring your kids. So many activities are geared towards the inclusion of family as a unit. It's amazing. So I encourage that you definitely bring them out.
And just imagine gay men and gay women. The food is better.
Mm-hmm.
The environment is better.
The art is better.
The activities are on point.
The cocktails are superb.
Mm-hmm.
It is a little pricey in some of these towns, but you know, it's worth the experience.
That's why there's Family Week. Mom, Dad, Mom and Dad.
But there's a lot to do: rollerblading, bike riding,
Whale watching.
Whale watching. You can go kayaking. You can do so.
That's a double meaning, whale watching. But anyway, go on.
That's me in the water. That being said, should we take our first break? Well, our only break.
Yeah. I was like, we get 2 today.
Oh, special. All right. Well, we're going to take a break. We'll play some music. And when we come back, we've got more stories. See you in a few.
I think I could love you better, but I won't tell you how to feel. Try to paint the picture clear. You're the one that I want near. I wanna hear you make that sound from the love we found. I wanna turn you upside down till we hit the ground. I wanna hear you scream my name. It won't be the same. I wanna make you feel it now, 'cause I'm fucking loud. You make that sound when I love you found. I wanna turn you upside down till we hit the ground. I wanna make you scream my name. It won't be the same. I wanna make you feel it now, 'cause I'm fucking loud. Take it fast and don't go easy. Show me how you like it done. Gone to work, so roll the sleeves up. You can leave it all undone. I know you like it, there ain't no time to fight it. I wanna make you scream, 'cause we're fucking loud, 'cause we're fucking loud, 'cause we're fucking loud, 'cause we're fucking loud. Feel Invisible from your love, will you find me soon? Trapped in the darkness, lost in the night, so far away, out of sight. Discover and release my love somehow. My questions need your answer, give them to me now. Pain inside is way too much, just want to hold you and feel your touch. Hey, oh. Bet you can see me, pull me out of here. Feels like I'm drowning, invisible. Cause you can see me in the shadows of my fear. Feels like I'm drowning, frozen by the longing to be found. My head is spinning round and round. Going on without your love feels like a sin, like sliding a razor blade against my skin. Bet you can see me, pull me out of here. Feels like I'm drowning, invisible. Cause you can see me in the shadows of my fear. Feels like I'm drowning, but you can see me.
If you need my hands to pull you up above the earth, well, I will lift you up to show you just how much you're worth. 'Cause we need to be loved. So we need to be loved. If I had you here, I'd wear your heart just like a crown. And if it beats for me, then I would never put it down. 'Cause we need to be loved. So we need to be loved by someone else. By someone else. Ourselves and God, and why is it we need to be held when our lives get rough? People always tell you it's easy, just stand alone, but I can barely manage to smile when you're not home. smile when everyone's not home. Sailing into green light. Someone needs to be loved. So sailing into green light. Someone needs to be loved. Someone someone
My head gets caught in the moment, but my heart doesn't know it. Heart doesn't know it. Somehow I'm lost in the lonely, but it's too hard to show it. Too hard to show it. Danse avec moi, danse avec moi, danse avec moi. Do I fall in? Do I fall in? Do I fall in? I travel down the west coast with sun on my shoulders. The sun's on my shoulders. My heart's a winding road, but I can't control it, and nobody knows it. Do I fall in love? 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 Do I fall in You are the one to open my eyes, and you are the one to make me think twice, and you are the one I wanna spend my life with. You are the one, you're looking so nice, and when I'm with you, I'm in paradise, spending my days thinking about you, baby. You are the one I wanna be with, and you're on my mind, I just can't forget you. You are the one I'm gonna spend my life with. Oh baby, do I fall in? 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 Do I fall in?
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, from the break. That was Dance With Me by Davis Mallory. For those watching on the live stream video version, you probably saw me, this little fat boy, doing the little Running Man in my chair. It looked kind of hysterical because I was watching the playback, and I was cracking myself up. But anyway, I'm just feeling the music and loving it. Welcome back to the second half of the show. So we're going to jump into some stories that we still have to talk about. So I will maybe throw it out to Trish for her to talk about her story, because I know she says she wants to end the show on a good note.
Yeah, and I always seem to like have things that aren't great.
But they're important. They're great in the sense that they need to be talked about.
Valid. All right, so we continually talk about how it's getting better in the LGBTQ community to be gay and be out and be proud or whatever, which it is in a way. But here we are in, September 2018, marriage equality, all this stuff. And last night in Brooklyn, 2 men were beaten unconscious outside of a Brooklyn gay bar.
I did read this. Do we know which bar it was?
I don't know which bar it was.
I always throw people under the bus.
But
it's okay.
But there were 2 people standing outside of a bar, and a man approached them and was saying anti-gay, sexually orientated statements, and then assaulted them to the point where they were both hospitalized. Evidently, one person he had a fractured shoulder. He was punched in the face, suffered from a fractured shoulder. The other one was hurled against a tree, broken finger. We need our fingers. But here we are talking about how things are getting better. And still to this day, I have conversations with certain individuals and they're like, oh no, it's fine to be gay now. And then in Brooklyn, New York, 2 men outside of a gay bar get gay bashed to the point at which they're in the hospital. Mind you, just a couple of weeks ago, there was 2 men in DC who were also gay bashed and hospitalized.
Well, you mentioned something, and I wanted to touch base on it. You mentioned something about people nowadays saying, "Oh, being gay is great and fabulous, and it's okay." But you also have to think about the generation, right? That's seeing what the gay lifestyle is today versus what people who grew up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s experienced as far as being gay and being out. This was very common for us back when we were growing up. There was always a story about be careful,
but it wasn't as prevalent though. Like it wasn't as
reported.
That's what I meant to say. Yes.
So it wasn't in your face. We didn't have social media. We didn't have all these things that could instantly transmit amounts of information that, to be honest with you, sometimes we don't even have the time to assimilate. But so for those younger gay men and women or members of our community that are growing up today, this to them really doesn't faze them as much as it should. And it's very startling to see that, because for us, when we were growing up, we were like very vigilant, very hyper vigilant per se, where we had to watch what we were doing, who we were doing it with, how we were walking, our mannerisms, all of that. We really had to have all of that on the back of our heads. And youngsters nowadays don't necessarily do that. They still do, but they don't realize that they don't realize that they should do it, but they don't have to, because they think that they're in a different
right.
time.
I mean, like there is this like element, right? So even when I go home to visit my family, whether it's just my parents or whether it's the extended family, my mannerisms are, I just clock everything that I do, right? So I'm just a little bit more aware of how I would naturally act, so that people, I guess, because this is the way we grew up, feel less like I'm throwing it in their face, because that's what people think we're doing when we're just, acting as though this is my personality. This is who I've come to embrace. This is myself, and I love myself. But when you're around certain people or in certain situations, you tone that down and you scale it back, because 1, you're protecting yourself, or 1, you just don't want to have that conversation or deal with your family. And these are things that we as a community need to talk about and like really address, because people shouldn't feel like, in Brooklyn, if you're outside of a gay bar, you shouldn't feel nervous that you're going to get attacked.
Yeah. And
2 men last night were put in the hospital. And same thing in DC. I mean, these are like very, very gay,
affluent neighborhoods.
Yes,
or areas.
And people are being attacked for who they are, and I mean, being gay isn't necessarily who you are, but it's a part of your life. And if you can't just embrace it visibly and with strength and the power that we've all come to accept and embrace, like, what the fuck? I mean, this is Brooklyn. This is DC. Like, it's still not where it needs to be. People should not be attacking one another based on sexual orientation.
We were in DC as a group not too long
Chris
ago,
was
right?
definitely in DC.
Oh, yes, he was. When we went down for the Pride March, and I would have never thought in for a million years, although I've always tend to be very hyper vigilant because that's just how I grew up. I never thought that I would probably hear something like this, especially on a weekend like the weekend that we went. But it is possible, and it can happen anywhere. I mean, we work at a gay bar. We could be outside smoking a cigarette, and somebody can just come by and, wow, there you go. And now you're on the floor, and God knows what not. But it is possible. But I wanted to touch on something that you had mentioned, you know, when you go, to, like, for example, to visit your family and you clock yourself and you start thinking about things that, you know, just to avoid certain situations or conversations. So my mom was in town recently. She left last Friday. She was supposed to stay this whole week, but she ended up going home early for personal reasons. But I was on my computer upstairs doing some stuff. I believe I was doing actual work for the last episode that we did on the show. And I remember saying like, oh my God, wow. And she immediately comes over. She goes like, what's going on? What are you looking at? And she sees my screen and she sees the guy that I'm looking at, and I'm gawking. I mean, the guy was gorgeous. And she just looked at me, and I literally like froze for a hot minute, right? Because these are not typical conversations I have with my mother, although my mother's very, very accepting and she loves me to death. But I literally, like, for a moment, I felt slightly uncomfortable at the fact that my mother was looking at this hot guy and actually agreeing with me. Mm-hmm. And she was like, oh, I can see why you're looking at him.
Yeah. I mean, like, how long is it going to take for us to accept the fact that who we are and who we date is 100% normal?
That's because of the expectations that society has put
I know. I'm highly aware.
Us as a community.
But I mean, it's true. I mean, like, there's just this like underlying feeling of, even though we know that this is right and we're in love and everything is perfect, and you see all the positive things in social media or in media in general, we're still uncomfortable with being completely who we are in front of individuals.
And it's also still dangerous.
Yeah, totally.
You know,
I mean,
So I wanted to kick it off to Christopher. So we're three men sitting in this room, and this is why I'm kicking it off to you. So pay attention, perk up, and get ready to go.
I've been reading.
Trish is very flamboyant. I'm very borderline flamboyant. You know, we are effeminate men, if that's what you want to call it. But Christopher, on the other hand,
I'm not going to say I take offense, but
Lord have mercy. At most times when we get communications from anyone, or even early on in our shows, they would refer to you as a straight guy.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
It was, but you know, obviously because we've been having conversations and people know that you truly are gay, but you are a gay man that's not effeminate. What are your thoughts on like your experiences being out and about as a gay man? Do you think that you would encounter situations like this, like Trish and I would? Because I can guarantee you we probably would.
I mean, I've never,
if you were with us, yes, but
I've never experienced anything firsthand other than a couple of drunk Yale students, or not even Yale students. I think they were just drunk people who were having a night out in New Haven, and I had closed up the bar when I worked at York Street one night, and as I'm walking to my car, these like guys are all stumbling. They're like, faggot. And I was like, hell yeah. And then they just started cracking up. Like they thought it was funny. Like they weren't actually. So they were just being assholes.
But see, you were closing a gay bar.
Well, I was in the garage at this point, so they didn't even see me coming out from the bar. So I had never personally experienced anyone attacking me verbally or physically because of my sexual orientation. You know,
and the reason why I asked this is because, again, you are very, and I hate to use the term straight acting. You're not effeminate.
I'm not acting anyway.
Well, I'm not saying that you are. I'm just saying.
Right, no, but that's why I also agree I don't like that term, because I'm not acting anyway.
You are who you are. But you're not effeminate, but you're a gay man and you're very proud of who you are, and we appreciate that every day. But for you, can you really say that you would at some point in your life experience something this drastic?
I would hope never to.
Can I ask you another question, though? So today when you went to the pharmacy for me and you were like, I'm here to pick up a prescription for my partner, did that make you nervous?
Not at all. One, because I was dealing with a medical professional.
Yeah.
And what was the reaction?
Nothing.
I'm just curious.
Okay. She's like, oh, yeah, it's almost ready. She knew I was coming. But
Oh,
no,
does he come?
it's when it comes to professionals like that, I tend to feel that they're not going to have any judgment. Regardless if they do, they're not going to let it impair their work because they have taken an oath to do no harm regardless. So I felt very comfortable speaking to the pharmacist about it.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
tell that to the two women that are accusing Kevin of, right? But
Well,
anyway, judge
he didn't take an oth to do no harm.
he took an oath to
Did I
protect
ever
the
tell
law
the
and be lawful.
football story when I was walking downtown back in when I was in high school?
This sounds familiar, but
It sounds, but go for it.
So
Why not?
yeah, I used to play.
It's always nice to be
I used to
reminded.
play football in high school,
Which I was shocked to find out. But yes.
and I was walking down the main drag of my town where I grew up, and I was with my best friend, and somebody had a football. The group of 3 guys had a football in their hand, and they saw me walking down the
I
street,
remember this.
and they chucked the football at me. And I think they said something like "catch it, faggot" or something like that, or "doubt you can catch it, faggot." And like they chucked it at me thinking they were going to hit me. I turned around and caught it.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Ugh." And then I was like, my friend got really pissed and he started going at them. I was like, I got this. And they were like, come on, faggot, throw it back. And I like chucked it back, perfect spiral, right to the guy's chest. And he was like, okay.
Like, suck my hole.
Literally, come suck it, bitch.
Yeah.
And then the poop on the leaf story, but
Yeah, we know that one. That's I always feel bad for you, but I'm so grateful to have known that story because it's so
I still can't
hurtful, but
believe that.
I
It's like,
know.
who does that?
It was probably them because you challenged
no, that
them.
was college.
Well,
Yeah.
okay. Well, that's right. You were talking about high school.
You pooped on my leaf, man.
Oh, and then they stuck it on your door.
No, they slid it underneath my door.
Oh,
Just trashy.
I know.
wow.
And like,
It was-
honestly, you don't
Maybe they
even get
wouldn't-
it because like, if you douche correctly, there's no poop.
They're probably doing like the whole Cinderella thing, like with the shoe. He's like, I feel like maybe he smelled this butt before, and if he smells this, he'll know who to come for. That's probably what it was. He was actually calling you. He was
Probably.
calling for
Oh my
you.
God.
He was probably like, you know, he said something to me the other day. He's like, do you want to see a magic trick? And I was like, sure. And he was like, do you want me to show you how your dick can disappear? And I was like, yes.
Whoop. Gone.
Bye.
Bye, Felicia. So anyway, the moral of that story is that you just never know. You're never safe. Be vigilant. Have eyes around you. If you encounter a situation that where you feel like someone is coming for you verbally, physically, and that could end up in a possibility and where you're harmed physically, try to remove yourself. First and foremost, try not to engage someone physically if you don't have to, but if you must, fight.
No, yeah.
Fight.
I mean, it's like, it's interesting too, because you think about Matthew Shepard, right? He died at the hands of 2 men who basically tricked him into thinking he was going to have a sexual encounter.
And we're about to actually come up on the anniversary.
And it's been 20 years and we're still facing hate crimes like this. Luckily, I mean, the transgender community, you have a lot of people that are getting killed. Luckily, you don't see a lot of gay men and gay women being killed, but we're still being bashed and being hospitalized. But all this being said, the work and the advocacy of the Matthew Shepard Foundation and what Matthew Shepard went through, yes, make sure you're safe, but at the same time, don't be afraid to remain visible and know that as a community, we're strong. And if people come at you, we're gonna fight back and we're going to push forward. We're not gonna just like sit down and take it.
I truly hope that these 2 individuals, these 2 gentlemen that were harmed, are okay, and that they come out of this situation as unscathed as possible.
Yeah,
right?
I think
Because
they'll
this
be
is
okay.
something that you're going to take with you for the rest of your life, right? Anywhere that you go now, you have to worry about this happening again. You know, it's traumatic enough. But you know, it's just comes with the territory. It comes with the fact that, you know, we are a minority group that unfortunately are seen as indecent, seen as less than, we're belittled, we're beaten, we're constantly being attacked, and we just have to be strong and know that our voices are louder than any fist will ever be, and that we need to push forward and fight.
Yeah.
And hopefully these cowards get caught.
Yeah.
Because it was 5-2 for the DC attack.
Yeah. I think I'm just gonna in the Brooklyn attack. Before we close it out, I'm just gonna say this one little bit from the article, which was brought to you by The Advocate. Some New Yorkers are calling not only for the perpetrator's arrest, but for addressing the broader problem of homophobia. We need people to take action, not just to find and arrest this one person. We need people to take action to go out and vote and make sure that we don't have people and leaders in this country that actively dog whistle against my very existence.
That is true.
So
I agree.
Yeah,
And you know who said that?
Aiden Pongrease.
So to Aiden, or how would I say? How do you say his last name again?
Well, I'm thinking it's Pongrease, but it might be Pongrease.
Congratulations! Thank you so much for wording that absolutely perfectly, and that is the God honest truth. All right. So we're gonna move on. Christopher, what do you have for us today?
Well, mine's also not the happiest story, but it's something, it's relevant because remember when you had Tiberio, Adrian, and Clay on, we had them on the show talking about rights in Romania. Well, coming out a couple days ago, I believe it was on September 18th, the date was set in Bucharest. Romania set for an October 6th, October 7th date for a referendum to change the constitutional definition of marriage to a union between a man and a woman aimed at preventing same-sex partnerships from ever being legal in one of the few EU states that still bans it. So they are moving forward with the referendum.
But the referendum that they're moving forward with is to block or
Is
in
to
support?
vote is in support of changing the constitutional definition of marriage to a union between a man and a woman.
But here's the thing: they can't do that because it was already ruled in the EU Supreme Court
Not to change the constitution of Romania, but what
To
it was
define.
to recognize a union that was performed in
other
other
countries.
countries
But-
in the European Union.
But I could have sworn that we were waiting on a verdict on a Wednesday, if I remember this correctly, when we were talking about this right around the time when Clay and Adrian came on.
Right.
That following Wednesday, we had them on Monday. Wednesday,
Right.
a decision was supposed to be rendered, came through, that basically said that Romania was going to actually acknowledge, one, that was the case. They were going to accept the ruling from the High Court, and that somehow this would make it okay for people who were there to actually be able to acknowledge their partners. I don't think it had to do with marriage equality within that country.
No, it had
it
nothing
was-
to do. It was only recognition of marriages performed in the EU outside of Romania.
Yeah, the Supreme that court case was literally about defining what spouse meant.
Yes.
But with this referendum, which is going on the
October 17th?
6th and the 7th,
sorry.
was that it is going to change the constitution of Romania to state that marriage is between a man and a woman. And under Romanian law, the constitution can be changed after a proposal by the president, the government, and a quarter of all lawmakers, or at least 500,000 citizens. Parliament must approve any revision, which must then pass a nationwide referendum. That's how their constitutional law works.
Right. So what does that mean though? So if they have to follow the EU Supreme Court and their court defines spouse as this, how then can Romania say, well, our constitution says this, so we're not going to follow your law saying that it's between a man and a woman?
The only thing is I can think is if one of the
I think I maybe I just made sense in my own head.
Okay.
So hold on. So the EU defined what spouse was,
Right.
because that was the original language in the Constitution. Now they're trying to change the language in the Constitution so that it says between a man and a woman, which then negates the entire court case they just went through.
right.
But they still have to acknowledge those marriages that took place in other countries based on UN law. Excuse me.
EU.
No,
EU
they,
law.
they don't.
But
they
it
don't.
sounds like
Because-
this will be their way out of it.
No, yeah,
Well-
they won't, because what this thing did was what they were fighting for was in their constitution it said spouse.
Right.
So it's between spouses, right?
Right.
And they made the choice to not acknowledge a homosexual couple. Now what this court case at the EU Supreme Court did was acknowledge what spouse actually meant was man and woman, woman and woman, man and man. But now, if they change the Constitution,
but
they're
only
saying
for the purpose of residency.
Listen, if they change the Constitution, then it means it's between a man and a woman.
And
the spouse has been defined,
Mm-hmm.
but that spouse word is going to be removed, and they're going to place man and woman in that.
But I
That's
remember,
exactly what
I
it is.
remember when we were talking with Tiberio that he had mentioned that this would only, this fight that they were going through, even when we were having a conversation with Clay and with...
Oh, yeah, it's only about residency.
It would only basically allow them to have rights as far as residency. It was never the fight for marriage equality or for the definition.
Right.
But it's the first
country.
step for marriage equality for Romania.
Right.
Of course.
And this is going to be taking it back.
Right.
Well, like most...
And which was expected.
I mean, we knew that this would happen. I just don't see how one ruling in a country is going to make something, for example, like what Adrian and Clay has, right? He was able to be acknowledged as a partner, invalidated, right? They still have to follow EU law. They just can't have same-sex marriages in that country, which is heartbreaking in itself.
But they won't even have to acknowledge residency. They won't have to acknowledge residency because the court case wasn't about residency. The court case was to define what spouse meant.
Right.
And in the Romanian constitution,
which granted residency as a result.
Right.
But they're dropping the term spouse even at this point.
So the Romanian constitution said spouse, not man and woman. So now they're replacing spouse with man and woman. So the EU never ruled that said you have to acknowledge a marriage between a man and a man or a woman and a woman. They ruled that you have to acknowledge this union because this is what we define spouse is.
Right.
And your constitution doesn't say man and woman, it says spouse.
Right. So now they're going to change that.
I think that we're probably just going to have to see how this plays out. I mean, I still think that they're just not going to allow marriages between same-sex couples, but they would still have to comply within the laws of the European Union because they're part of the European Union. And if they challenge that, they're still going to have to jump through legal hoops and stuff before they would ever be able to legally say, no, we're not going to acknowledge you as a
it's a super shady loophole.
Yeah, of course.
But the thing about the referendums is it comes down to the population. The people are the ones who are making this vote. And with what it's saying here, for any referendum to be valid, a third of more than 18 million Romanians with voting rights must turn out to the polls. So this comes down to the Romanian population if they agree with this or not.
Well,
it's an incredibly orthodox, conservative nation.
They have a very long road ahead of them, but it's no different than, Waffle House Kim over here defying the ruling of our Supreme Court and her state supporting her. But either way, they still had to because of the laws that were passed on a federal level.
Is it bad that I want Queer Eye to go and deal with Waffle House Kim? I know they probably never would.
What would they do to her? Seriously.
Put her down.
Oh my God. Okay. Oh, Lord have mercy.
Down in a cage.
Okay.
In the basement.
That's not what you meant.
We know exactly what you meant. And we're not talking about Mama Kim. We're talking about Waffle House Kim, the one that denied same-sex marriage licenses to people who wanted to get married and that the Supreme Court in 2015 declared was legal, and she was still refusing to do it based on her religious convictions, which to me is bullshit. But anyway, sorry, I have a hiccup and I needed to breathe. So we do have some other stories, mainly one I can talk about, which aside from what's going on in Romania or the attacks that occurred in Brooklyn or DC, did you have something to add, babe?
Well, yeah, I just want to say one more thing before we move on to the happier stuff. Is I think we need to acknowledge somebody who passed away recently. Zach Kostopoulos,
the Greek guy.
The Greek guy. So he was a LGBT rights activist, and he was killed on Friday in Athens. He did a lot of positive work for the LGBTQ community in Greece, and it's important that we acknowledge that he has passed on. And it was through it was a violent. Yeah,
he was
event.
murdered.
He was murdered. He was murdered, and it was. I don't necessarily. It wasn't a hate crime. It was a mob attack in some way, and I not exactly sure what that means because I don't know what the mob in Greece is like or what the culture there is like surrounding the mob.
Very anti-LGBT.
So maybe it was a little bit of hate, or maybe it was all hate.
All hate.
But at the end of the day, I want to acknowledge Zach for all of the work that he's done, and I would like to give him claps and tell him that we love him and thank him.
And may he rest in peace.
Yeah.
It's also important to point out that let's keep it with the happy and claps.
Go for it.
You sleep well.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm jumping all the way to the Caribbean, the island nation of Cuba, which lately has been surprising many people in some of the initiatives that have been going on the island and things that are changing. They're changing so rapidly, right? Like we remember the repression that was Fidel Castro and the fact that the island was isolated from the rest of the world, mostly because of sanctions that were imposed by the United States after the Cuban Missile Crisis, etc. But lately, we've been getting a lot of like interesting news coming out of the island as far as people's opportunities changing and things changing and progressing into a more, inclusive nation as far as being able to be received by the rest of the world, right? After Obama went there and lifted sanctions and made an attempt somehow to have some sort of relationship with the island, things started changing dramatically. Of course, that was overturned and reversed by Donald Trump, but that's a story for another time. What I wanted to point out is that there's a lot of things that are going on right now. Cuba, as we know, has a very large LGBTQ population. There has been many documentaries that have been created. One of them is actually on help me out here, Netflix. It was very, very amazing, very well created, very well edited. It was just completely amazing documentary on transgender folks in Cuba and also LGBT folks as well, gay men and women. But I happened to stumble upon one of the articles, which is written by Daniel Villarreal over at
unicornbooty.com.
This one is really
not really.
Yes, it really comes from unicornbooty.com. And so basically it says that Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel, for those of you living under a rock, Fidel's gone.
Where'd he go?
Raul Castro, who was Fidel's successor and brother, also has left office and is no longer the president of Cuba. We now have Miguel Díaz-Canel. He officially supports, he's thrown his support in for marriage equality. Now, when I started reading the article, I was looking at some of the stuff that was going on, and it basically stated the following. The start of same-sex marriage in Cuba could soon be at the hands of the island nation's new president, Miguel Díaz-Canel. Recently voiced support for it in September, in a September 16th interview for a Latin American TV channel called Telesur. Famous legislator Mariela Castro Espín, now the name sounds familiar. She is none other than the niece of the former Cuban leader, Fidel Castro, and the daughter of the last president, Raúl. She has been advocating faithfully for LGBTQ rights in her country, even as her uncle and her father may have not supported such endeavors. And she has been working closely with the president, the current president of the island nation, to advance a lot of the LGBTQ initiatives on the island.
I think it's important to note, though, he says in this article, I think that recognizing marriage between people without limitations addresses the problem of eliminating all kinds of discrimination in society. However, it goes on to say, Miguel Díaz-Canel, did I say that right? Sort of, kind of. Canel, tempered his response, though, saying that despite his personal opinion, the people will have the last word.
As with those in Romania, when you throw a referendum like that to the people, there is always a possibility that you're going to get pushback. But
it takes this is more comparable to Angela Merkel with the vote in Germany.
Right.
Correct.
So it takes its, especially if we're talking about Cuba now, right? So it takes a strong individual to come out and say, like, this is not how I feel, but if this is how my people feel, I will let them choose.
Right.
Like, how long has it been since Cuba's had a world in which they had that right to choose.
It's been a very long time.
Right.
And I'm hoping that because of that, you know, systemic oppression, the oppression of not being able to voice your opinion and be your own self, that I hope that some people remember that when they go to the polls and decide whether or not they're going to allow fellow countrymen be able to bask in that new right that they are gaining with this such initiative. You know, the important thing is here is that this is coming straight out of left field. Nobody even knew that the current president, or even that Fidel's own niece had a hand in supporting the LGBTQ community.
I didn't know there was a Cuba Pride.
Well, evidently that there is.
I know.
And so, you know, it's just overall, to me, I see this as a very, very huge positive thing going forward. And even if they're not successful this time around, they're starting the conversation, which is the most important thing that you can do. So I wanted to talk about it and bring it to the attention of our community, because if you can reach out to those that are there and we can offer support in any way, shape, or form, whether through visibility, talking about it, making the world stage know that this is actually happening and what can we do to help, let us know. Right? It's to me, I was shocked because I remember growing up and reading, you know, how people actually lived in Cuba and how they, you know, the government, the socialization of you know, government properties, people's businesses being taken over by the government, saying we own everything and you work and you get your own share of what it is that we're going to give you. And that's how you're going to live your life. Yeah, you have your land, but whatever you're growing on it is ours. And we tell you what you can keep and we're going to tell you what you can sell. It was only but 4 or 5 years ago that, you know, the Cuban government started allowing citizens to actually open up their own businesses and privatize a lot of the economy in certain sectors to be able to change the way that they've been doing things since the 50s when Castro took the island and made it a communist nation.
Yeah. I mean, I'm reading another article now, and it's even saying here that so Cuba, it wasn't until 1979 that they decriminalized homosexuality. Mm-hmm. They in 1965 they were throwing gay people in work camps. Mm-hmm. They were also quarantining, which a lot of they probably did that here in America as well, quarantining HIV positive people as well, instead of, you know,
we definitely did that.
Yeah. But we were also trying to help people at the same time.
Yeah.
I don't think they probably weren't trying as much. But they were using these laws to literally put the LGBTQ community down in a way that they could not advance. And finally, you're seeing some forward movement. And yeah, did it take somebody passing on and somebody else coming into power? But that tends to happen.
Which it's usually the case. You know, you have to new, fresh mind, fresh perspective, someone who's younger and has a different outtake or perspective in life. I mean, the article even went as far as saying that if the Constitution is adopted, Mariela Castro Espin intends to pass a legislative package that would open other rights for LGBTQ people, including marriage. She confided with YAG magazine during her visit to Paris, France. We also need to acknowledge that after the Cuban Revolution in 1959, homosexuals were persecuted under the aegis of the Castro's brothers. In 2010, Fidel Castro acknowledged that mistake and apologized, but nonetheless, it happened. And to see, again, this happening to me in a nation such as Cuba is absolutely uplifting. It uplifts my spirit because it just makes me think that, you know what, we can still see greatness happen in this world, even if we live currently in a cloud of uncertainty regarding our own situation here at home and those around the world, that there's still hope.
Yeah.
So that to me was just incredible, and I wanted to bring that to light. So we have a couple more things that we need to talk about, and then we will wrap up the show and call it a day. So we've got two things.
I just want to go back to the Cuba thing really quick. So
okay,
I'm still in this article, and I'm sorry I did not read this article prior. I read the one that you had, but then there was a link. But we were talking about America and HIV, and in the 80s, America AIDS experts actually criticized Cuba's model of incarceration based on supposed future behavior as irrational and totalitarian.
Totalitarian.
Thank you. I think America did handle the AIDS crisis a lot better, obviously a lot better than Cuba did, even though it took a long time to get it to where it was actually acknowledged and handled. So I just wanted to mention that.
Okay,
good. No, good.
So with that being said, we've got two things that we need to talk about. The first one is the gay talk term. My
cursive is coming out.
Cursive is kicking in.
All right, so this week's Gay Talk term brought to you, of course, by
unicornbooty.com.
Not really.
Yes, it is. It's Jam Sheet. Jam Sheet is this week's Gay Talk term.
Wait, is it like Banshee, Miss Vanjie?
No, it's Jam Sheet.
Jam Sheet.
Which means shit list. Group of people who are out of favor. For an example, I don't think you should come. You're still on her jam sheet after your remarks about her Cocoa Brown living room.
Oh.
Jam sheet.
Thank you, Trish.
Don't criticize people's living arrangements.
But honestly, though, a Cocoa Brown living room, we got to talk about that.
Indeed.
I had a Cocoa Brown room. Like, as far as like the paint, the wall and the paint on the walls was dark. It was nice.
Well, at least there weren't holes in their ceiling.
No. I just think of something completely different. She is nasty.
So for our listeners who don't watch us, Chris said that, and all I did was look at the ceiling.
And there's missing tiles all over the place, but that's because we're under construction.
You know you're in a Puerto Rican's home when. I'm just kidding.
Nasty.
She's going to get some nasty emails.
Guys, I might get cut tonight.
Yeah,
a little bit.
She might not make it next week. If she's not here, you know why. And the video will be off for that. Just saying, because I want no evidence. But
I wasn't here.
That being said, Christopher, what do we have for on this day in gay history?
Well,
it is so tiny.
I know it's weird that it did that.
Okay.
Usually it's like large, like
Do you want me to
large.
show you
No,
what
I
looks
got
like
it. I got it.
Large.
I got it. So on this day in gay history, brought to you, of course, by unicornbooty.com.
Not really.
I was like, you're not gonna chime in with this one?
No.
None of them were uplifting stories. They're all like executing this one and executing them and burning these people.
In history, and we need to talk about it.
Exactly. I just thought it was interesting because it can be along the lines of, I don't remember if anyone knows, Donald Trump, the president of the United States, he's known to say one thing and then have people bring it back and be like, well, I know he said blue, but what he meant was black. Change everything. So back in September 14th of 2007 in New York, Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad claimed,
you said it wrong.
I'm not good at saying his name.
Ahmadinejad.
Ahmadinejad. I was close.
I would listen to Rachel Maddow.
I know. I always fuck up his name.
Ahmadinejad. Okay.
Ahmadinejad claimed
he's an asshole.
Quote,
just go for it.
We don't have homosexuals. And then later, this was said while he was speaking at Columbia University in New York City.
There was huge riots when he came to New York City.
Oh yeah, I don't even understand why he was ever welcomed here. But anyways, an aide later says that he was misquoted and was actually saying, compared to American society, we don't have any homosexuals.
Bullshit. We know exactly
we don't
what
have
he
many.
meant.
It's small. I can't read it. I should have taken his word and read his.
Just like the Chechenian president,
Ramzan Kadyrov. Ramzan is his first name, right?
Mr. Kadyrov.
That's not a mister. He's not a fucking gentleman.
Oh God, I didn't say gentleman. I said Mr.
Mister. Gentlemen are called misters.
Kadyrov.
That, sir, is a rat.
Like his counterpart up in Chechnya, this is just the type of society and this type of individual lends itself to persecuting people for just being who they are. And I remember when he came to New York City and there was a lot of protests and a lot of things, and the man had to walk around with a security detail the size of like one of the precincts in Manhattan because of it. But to me, it's horrible to think that this exists in the world and that this is what we look at when we think about all our brothers and sisters that are oppressed all around the world. And it is at the hands of monsters like this man and Kadyrov and other people that persecute people for just who they are and not what they have control over, they can be. So,
Absolutely.
that being said, I think we're definitely going to bring this home. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Just a reminder that if you do love the show, you can make sure to rate and review on your favorite podcasting service. This helps others know about the show and ensures that it becomes more visible within our podcasting community. By subscribing to our show, you get the latest and greatest delivered right to your favorite device or web browser as soon as the episode is published. You can also support us on Patreon. Thank you, our Patreon subscribers, for donating to our show. For those of you who don't know, Patreon is a service that allows you, our listeners, to support the show with a monetary donation. Those donations are collected monthly and can be in any denomination of $1 or more.
And if you give that $1, you can see me gnawing at my fingers the entire episode.
All episode long.
It's quite appetizing.
Yeah.
Yes. So next week, we're very excited to have another great segment of From Top to Bottom with Dr. Evan Goldstein.
I'm excited. I love when, we have, first of all, I love listening to his voice, one. And I love seeing him when he's on with us for the following Tales from the Tail.
I like his medical advice.
Yeah.
And also hearing about his butthole
Well,
that one episode. That was nice.
Speaking of which, though, if any of our listeners have any questions for the good doctor,
yes,
please email us or send us a message on Facebook or Instagram, or message him directly, because we would love to hear what you guys want to hear about.
Of course. And you can actually reach out to them on social media. That's at Bespoke Surgical on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And or you can send it to us.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So, Christopher, should I open the box?
Can we put a rubber on this, please?
Which one?
Thank you. As you know, our show is available on our website, GayTalk20.com, under show and episodes.
Did he
It
just
is
say
also
gay trash?
No, not even close.
Okay.
Can I finish?
Yeah,
This rubber was halfway on,
yeah,
and then
that
you
shit
broke it.
That shit broke.
Exactly. I'm going to start again, and I'm going to go back to the
pregnant.
normal voice. Alrighty, as always, our show is available on our website, GayTalk20.com, under show and episodes. It is also available as a free download on iTunes, Google Play Music, and Stitcher Radio.
Nick announces you can find us on social media: Facebook, GayTalk 2.0, Instagram, GayTalk 2.0, Twitter at GayTalk20. You can email us at GayTalk2.0@gmail.com. Tom, take it away.
And if you need to reach out to us, head on over to our website, click on the Contact Us tab right at the top of your web browser, where you can leave comments, suggest topics. You can submit a question for the cast or submit a question for an individual host.
I'm single.
Oh, Lord have mercy. The emails
Are you
coming in.
advertising?
Yes, he is. She's nasty. All right. You can also call us if you want to speak to Chris and leave us a voice message so that we can answer those questions for you on the show. The phone number for that is 334-GAY-TALK. If you need the digits, it is 334-429-8255. My mouth is very juicy tonight. Okay. Don't forget that we stream live every Monday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and also on Patreon for our Patreon subscribers. And you can access our audio live stream at digitalstreamradio.com/livestream. Ladies and gents, that is our show. Thank you, and y'all have a good night. Bye!
Thank you for listening to this episode of GayTalk 2.0. Tune in next time for more dish.
We were talking cartoons. I want.
All righty. Well, to our Patreon subscribers, thank you for staying with us, for tuning in and being with us here on the video live stream. We just wrapped up the episode, and we're super excited. Next week, we're going to do it all over again. And tune in. We love you. Bye.